Hi, everyone. Welcome to Living Overseas on a Dime. I'm Noel.
I'm Jenny.
And if you've been following us for a while, you'll notice that today's topic is a little bit unusual, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But first, we wanted to thank all of our subscribers for helping us almost hit the 2,000 mark. It's
Thank
been,
you.
yeah, thank you so much. It's been a long road, but we hope that we have a lot of new, interesting things coming up in the near future. You might be wondering why, there hasn't been video in a little while. Well, we're getting ready to leave Canada. So we've
Yeah.
had a lot of packing and getting things ready, and a lot of like soul searching as to what exactly we want to do. So I think today's video will be very interesting for you. So the first thing is primarily, why are we leaving Canada? Well, you know what? It's not for us. Uh, the inflation in the last couple of years, which I know worldwide, but Canada's food prices have just gone through the
hmm
roof. Combine that with sky high rent and living expenses and an absolute need to have a car
Yeah.
in most of Canada. Like I personally, I can't stand the car reliant lifestyle.
No, and we live in Ottawa right now, and it's really, really car reliant. I mean,
Yeah.
most provinces are now in Canada, but it's really spread out here. You definitely need a car, and gas is expensive, cars are
Yep.
expensive, and it drives us a little bit crazy, especially after traveling and lots of cities had subway or at least
Yeah.
good buses. And we walked a lot of the places, right? So
Yeah.
we kind of
Here,
missed that lifestyle.
especially in winter, you just don't really get much time to get out when it's
No.
just slippery, and I like to run a lot, so it's a problem. So we're leaving Canada. One other aspect which has had to do with not only the expense of Canada but also the market crash is that we need to work in some capacity. Now, in Canada, the problem is it's so expensive
It's
that at
crazy.
least one of us has to work full time.
And I think we're both realizing, and this is kind of why you stopped working before, was we don't want to work full time
No.
anymore. And especially for us, for homeschooling our son, it works way better if we're both kind of working part time. I'm an
Yeah.
artist, so I can still do my art as a side gig, and you just want to work part time, and it works
Exactly.
really well for us.
So, if you have been watching our channel for a while, I'm going to guess that you probably have seen some of our Mexico videos, which I know lots of people are interested in Mexico. And this video is a bit of a different turn for us.
hmm
Um, as you saw in the title, like why we aren't going to be retiring in Mexico. So, we're going to go into some things here now. Now, let's not get off on the wrong foot.
We love
We
Mexico.
love Mexico. We spent almost 5 months there
hmm
a year and a half ago, and we love it. It is
Yeah.
a great place.
Yeah, the people are great. The food's great. I mean, there's so many diverse landscapes, and you name it. You can go inland, you can do beachfront. There's waterfalls, there's caves, there's mountains. I mean, there's desert. You pretty much whatever kind of climate you want, you can find in
And
Mexico.
Mexico's just big. A
Yeah,
lot
it
of
really
people don't
is.
understand exactly how large Mexico is, and you could spend years exploring Mexico.
hmm
And you could go up in the deserts and the beaches of Baja, come
Yeah.
down to more tropical Puerto Vallarta, up in the central highlands. And like there's just so many options.
Yeah.
It really is an amazingly diverse country when it
hmm
comes to its geography and its
Yeah, you
environments.
want a big city, go to Mexico City,
Exactly.
Guadalajara. I mean, you name it, Mexico has it.
Another big one, especially with aging family members, is how close it is to the United States and Canada.
Yeah, I mean, for us, it would be a 4 hour direct flight to Puerto Vallarta. If you're living in the States, sometimes it's 1 or 2 hour flight
Yeah.
direct, right? So, I mean, it's so convenient. There's a reason why people like going there. You can fly back whenever you want, right?
Yeah, and you can snowbird if you want to
Mm-hmm.
do, the 6 months, 6 months, or something along those lines,
Yeah.
so you don't lose the benefits of your health care or whatever, depending
Mm-hmm.
on how you're doing your retirement.
Mm-hmm.
It is definitely very close and easy to do. Another huge thing is how amazing Mexican culture is. It is truly a rich, diverse, and authentic culture that in some ways surprised us, I think, when we first got there. Like
Yeah.
you see it in the movies and things like that. And in Canada, we're kind of far from Mexico. But when you get there, you realize how it's real. It's
Yeah.
it's it's entrenched and rich in the life and the culture of Mexican people there.
And there's always something going on. I didn't realize how big, what do we call it? Cowboy culture is in Mexico. But it's everywhere. You know, we'd on a weekend, we'd go down to one of the plazas and there'd be like horse parades. You've got band to bands. There's literally a festival, parade, or holiday every weekend, and you'll see that all the time, right?
Yeah, and it's just that the joy of life that is demonstrated in Mexico by the Mexicans and people living there. Like you go down to the beach, even in Puerto Vallarta and Sayulita and that area, and man, they're having a good time. They got their music, they got their beers, their tequila, they're having a great time. Everyone's
and this is just
having
an
fun.
average Sunday afternoon, right? There's nothing special going on.
No.
But we love it because it's very family oriented.
Exactly.
They all get together with family and they relax on a Sunday. And it's just great to see, I mean, the food is amazing. Culturally, every single area has different culinary.
Oh God, the food is so great.
Yeah, the food's great. And it doesn't matter which area you go to. And one thing we didn't realize for the food was, especially for traveling, it really changes in the different areas. And
even the cheese, like we found that the cheese, we were surprised at how different it was by region.
Yeah.
And Chihuahua cheese here, we love that Chihuahua cheese.
Best
Fantastic.
Cheese. Oh my God. And so we go to a different place and my son's like, where's the Chihuahua cheese? And I'm like, it's not here. So we'd have to find a different one and just everything, right?
Yeah, it's very, very interesting that
some
way.
places have moles, some places have other things.
Yeah.
So really the food really changes from region to region, which is exciting for us, right? The people are great. The culture is so rich.
Yeah, and the language, you know what? The language is approachable. Like our Spanish is not great. Let's not pretend.
It sucks, yeah.
But like within the time that we were there, we could have basic ability to get across what we needed to get across for
order
buying
food,
stuff. And
buy stuff. I mean, we knew it was just very short term because we were going to Turkey after that. But if we were living there full time, we definitely
we'd study Spanish seriously.
Yeah. So,
and there's all sorts of literature as well. So it's it's an like I said, it's an amazingly rich and diverse culture and language, and it's something that it should be explored if you're planning on living there. And maybe we didn't say it strongly enough. The people, the Mexican people are truly amazing. Like. It's interesting going to Turkey after Mexico. We really saw how openly friendly and helpful the Mexican people are. We'll give you one little story. We were trying to take the bus system in Mexico City, and we had no idea what we were doing. Like we knew you needed some sort of card, but we didn't know, and we were trying to figure out how we got the card and had money. And this guy just came up. He's like, "Hey, are you guys okay? What's going on?" We're like, "Oh, we don't know. We need to take the bus." He's like, "Oh, here, just take my card.
Yeah,
it's got
he had
a little
an extra card.
Just take it." We're like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, I might have a little bit of money on it. Just take it and use it. You know what? I don't need it."
Yeah, because the terminal we were at, you couldn't get the cards.
Yeah.
And so we had been taking the subway up to that point, but we didn't have a card. He's like, "Oh, I can give you your extra one because you can't buy a card here." And he was just so nice.
Yeah,
right?
And you know what? We encountered that all over. It was not isolated in any specific region of Mexico. The people were just amazing.
No, whether it was like going to a food stand and, the businessman there in his suit going, what do you, we're like, well, what's really good here? He's like, oh, I always get the sandwich, get this. Yeah. We got lost in a big market, right, in Mexico City, and we were really like, we don't know where we're going.
Yeah. Might have been Tepito.
Yeah, and so we were asking people, everybody, we had the map, and they're like, we don't know, but everybody had a good laugh, and I mean, everybody was just super nice, right?
Yeah, the people are amazing.
Yeah.
So if you haven't really guessed it yet, we love Mexico. And I think we kind of miss it every day. Like,
yeah, we do.
Mexico is an amazing place. But sadly, it's like the world has conspired against us. You know what? We really, like, if it was in our power, we would be in Mexico tomorrow. But sadly, it's not. And so these are the reasons we are not retiring in Mexico.
Now, remember, just your opinion, we love Mexico.
Yeah, and this is our opinion in relation to our life situation.
Yeah, and so this is just reasons why we have decided not to pretty much retire there and live there.
Okay, so over the last few years, we've had massive inflation. We've had all sorts of crazy things going on. We've got,
Mm-hmm.
multiple geopolitical problems going on without going into
Yeah,
specifics. You
the
know what?
world is cray cray right
Yeah,
now.
it's a mess.
Yeah, it
And
really
you know
is.
what? Like as we said just a second ago, like these are our opinions, but we also think that a lot of our concerns may be other people's
Mm-hmm.
concerns, and this is the reason that we made this video. Just maybe it can help you out to have a clearer mind as to whether or not at this point in time Mexico is the place for you.
Yeah.
Contrary to what a lot of the mass media would have you think, our reason for not retiring in Mexico is not crime. I know, shocking, right? No, you know what? Our
Wow.
experience there and the time we were there was very simple. As long as you pay attention to your surroundings,
Yeah.
like you would in any other North American
Mm-hmm.
country, city, whatever, pay attention.
Yeah. Don't
Be,
go out at 3 in the morning.
yeah,
Don't
don't
go
get
to the clubs.
exactly. Don't get wasted and hang out with people that you have no idea who they are.
Yeah.
Like, don't do anything with illegal acts.
Yeah.
It's really that simple.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, of course, bad things happen. That's true, and they
Of course.
happen everywhere. But at the same time, for us, this is not really a concern.
Yeah.
As long as you stick to areas that are relatively frequented
safe.
by tourists,
Yeah.
it's not going to be a
Yeah.
huge issue.
And we found we always talk to whatever city we're in. We always talk to other people and ask like, are there any areas that we should stay away from?
Yeah. You need
And
information.
you
do
need
your
information.
research.
Do your research.
Yeah.
Of course, every city has bad neighborhoods, right?
Yeah.
That you want to avoid. Just be smart about it. But overall, we felt pretty safe.
Yeah, exactly.
In every
So-
city we went to in Mexico.
So just to clear this late,
it's not
it's
the
not
crime. No.
One of the biggest issues that a lot of people are encountering are the requirements for the residency visa.
Mm-hmm.
This has become a big issue as every year the requirements are twofold. You can either have income or a set amount of money in your bank accounts or retirement accounts or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So this is in a specific way tied to the Mexican minimum wage, which has been going up a fair bit in the last several years, especially with inflation and whatnot. So for us personally, this isn't a huge deal because we would likely go more on the set amount, the savings, which if at this point for 2023, which is almost over, so it's likely going to go up in 2024. But for income, it's a startling $3,275 per month in fixed income that can be shown over the last year.
It's really gone up.
That's a lot of money, especially for retirees. Like, I think most retirees are thinking, hey, if I can go somewhere a bit cheaper, well, if I get $3,275 a month, unless I live in like San Francisco or New York City, isn't it cheaper just to stay in the United States or Canada? Like, I mean,
that being said, you don't have the good food and the great people and the beautiful scenery, right? Like, we get the appeal of Mexico, we do. But when that limit is going up, it seems to be going up every year, that's really high. And lots of people who are on a fixed pension,
they just don't have that.
They just don't have it anymore, right? Now, that being said, we wouldn't be in that option.
Yeah, us it would be more the savings, which is currently I think $54,600. These amounts vary somewhat based on the consulate you go to, so don't take this in stone. Make sure you do your own research.
Yeah, it does vary on the consulate you go to.
But you know what? Even that's a fair amount of money if you're living on a fixed income as a retiree. Now, there is another option that isn't talked about a lot, which is the naturalization option, where you can go to Mexico. You have to overstay your visa, which we don't recommend. But I would talk to an immigration lawyer if you're looking at that method. It doesn't really require financial requirements all the time. But the main ways through income or savings are getting higher and higher. So it's definitely prohibitively expensive.
And I know we've talked to other people, and it's really, people are looking at other countries now just because, like you said, like 3,000 something a month. It's pretty high, and it just keeps going up every year, right? So, I mean, if you are on a fixed income, it's something to think about, right?
And that goes into our next topic, which is kind of the biggest reason, which is the cost of living in Mexico. So there's kind of multiple parts to this. The massive inflation worldwide, the cost of living has gone up everywhere.
Yeah.
But there's been a bit of a phenomena in relation to digital nomads and Airbnbs, which has caused an unbalanced, unproportionate increase in the cost of living in many Mexican towns that expats would consider.
Yeah.
Now, like I'll tell you, the Airbnbs that we rented when we were there 2 years ago
2 years
have
ago.
almost doubled,
Yeah.
which is insane. Now, if you're going to live there permanently, that isn't as huge an issue because you're probably going to say, okay, I'm going to do an Airbnb for a month or two and then find a place to rent for a year.
Yeah. Now the long-term leases for apartments, they've gone up.
Yeah.
But if you're getting a long-term your lease, usually you have a little bit of wiggle room.
Yeah.
But even that has gone up, right?
Not quite as much as
No.
the Airbnbs for sure, but it has gone up. Part and parcel of this problem has been the amount of digital nomads who come into a place, maybe stay for 1 month and then leave. Now, you may be going, hey, I'm watching this video and you guys are kind of digital nomads. That's not untrue up to this point. One of the things that we have decided upon after living that lifestyle for a year is straight out, it is not for us.
No.
We want to be permanent immigrants in a new country and able to positively contribute both to the culture, the economy, and be involved locally as much as we can.
Yeah.
I don't really think that, jumping around one place to another, living on a US or Canadian wage is responsible to those countries. Like, yes, of course, you're contributing as much as you can by buying locally, but you're not earning locally. You're not helping a local company to grow. Now, if you say moved there and set up shop and actually opened a business locally, sure, that's completely different.
Yeah.
But a lot of people who are doing this as digital nomads are working for a company in the United States or Canada.
Getting American wages
That's
or Canadian
the problem.
wages.
And then paying American or Canadian prices for the rent.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, even looking at the Puerto Vallarta chat groups, Facebook groups, people are like, what can I get for, 3,000 American a month? I'm like,
that's way too
lot
much
of money for
way
an
too much for
apartment.
Mexico.
Yeah.
And it messes up the local economy, and ultimately it is very bad for the local people. They get pushed out of neighborhoods, and it hasn't happened everywhere. It's happened primarily in like expat hotspots, Puerto Vallarta, Mexico City, and specific areas. But the problem is it's ongoing. It's going to spread. So if
people are looking now, right? Where can I go to Mexico? What's a cheaper city? So it is spreading out now, right?
Yeah, and you know what? We don't want to be part of that ultimately. Now, that doesn't mean that we couldn't live in Mexico if we found a place that was maybe a little bit off the beaten track and we could live full-time and locally. But right now, especially with this final component, it just doesn't work. Now, what is that final component? It is the strong peso. The peso has just gone up.
It's really strong.
If you have been lucky enough to have been invested in a Mexico country ETF or something like that, you've probably made 30 to 40% in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
So the flip side of that, however, although it's good for the Mexican economy, is it's very bad for people who are living on fixed incomes. So if you are someone who only has, say, your $2,000 pension check in various forms every month, all of a sudden your rent, instead of costing the $800 that it did 2 years ago, it is now costing, say, I'm just pulling a number out here, $1,400 a month.
Yeah, a lot of people have been saying, even with their rent not going up, they were renting their apartment 3 years ago, and now they're paying $400 more 3 years later because the peso has gotten so strong, right?
Yeah. And that also, that's a trickle-down effect too, because then food's more expensive. It's already more expensive a little bit due to inflation, but when you add in that your exchange rate is so much less, you're getting so many fewer pesos for your dollar than you were 3 years ago. It's definitely something to consider, and especially if you just have a fixed amount of money every month.
And for us, we're being super budget conscious. Primarily because we only want to work a little bit part-time.
Well, and this is the problem. This is the other issue with Mexico.
Yes.
Is that Now we have realized with the market being the way it is, like who knows, maybe it could explode in the next year or two. We do not want to decimate our retirement
No, we want
savings.
to work a little bit.
So we have to. It's not want to. We
Yeah,
have
we
to.
have to.
So
Yeah.
Mexico, especially on the retirement visas, does not allow that. Like I guess you could set up a small business and get the visa for that,
Yeah.
but with my background, it doesn't really make sense. And
And we don't work remotely.
no, and I don't want to. I want to be
No.
involved in the local economy
Yeah.
and work with local people and be involved locally, not just have a job that you take, bring money in, and it's just not responsible in my mind.
Yeah. So, we don't want to work illegally, right?
Yeah, exactly. So
Um,
what do you do? Well,
yeah.
sadly, when the money doesn't work, it becomes a very large issue. And I think it's probably the largest consideration in our choosing not to retire in Mexico.
Well, that and like I said, the peso just getting stronger and stronger
Yeah.
every year. We're super budget conscious right now, and it just seems like it's going up every year. So for us, it's
Yeah, it's a
it's
big
just
problem.
we just can't tell how high it's going to go, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, for
Even
us
if it stayed where it is, it'd be a problem.
it would be a problem for us, right? So unfortunately, it's just that with the peso getting stronger
Yeah.
and us not being able to work unless we do it online, which we don't really
No,
want
don't
to
want
do.
to do.
It's just not an option for us right now, which is sad
Yeah,
because we
it is
love
sad.
Mexico.
We love Mexico.
Yeah.
Another problem that we haven't really gone into in any of our videos is that we had some pretty serious health issues when we were in Cancun. We ended up overnight in a hospital, and even the doctors there were somewhat baffled. And we were really sick. We were sick even when we made it to Turkey, and it took us months to recover. And, they didn't really know exactly what caused it. And it was both of us. And thank God it wasn't Cole, because he doesn't really eat the same things as
Yeah.
us. But it was pretty scary. And, a lot of the time when we were in Mexico, we would vary who was sick. Like I would be sick in one place, and then Jenny would be sick, and then Cole would be sick.
Yeah, we always had stomach issues,
Yeah.
and it just kind of rotated between
Exactly.
us. And we were like, well, is it food? Is it water? And it wasn't us puking or food poisoning that way. It was just constant stomach issues.
Yeah. And you know what? It was weird because we would eat the same things, and only one person would get sick.
Yeah. It was,
So we have no real understanding as to, because people are like, oh, the street food was bad. Well, we both ate the same street food, and only Jenny got sick.
Yeah, it was.
So
Again, and we thought we really gave it a chance, right? I
Yeah.
mean, we were there for months.
yeah,
And still to the end, we
Yeah.
still had stomach issues between all three of us. It just
Exactly.
rotated, right? And it kind of really made us sad because for us, we've talked to other people who have had stomach issues, and then some people are like, "Oh, I've never had a problem."
yeah,
So we're not saying that's everybody, because we have met people who have never had stomach issues in Mexico at all.
yeah.
But for all three of us, we were very sensitive, whether it was the water or the food. And
We don't- we
we did
actually-
a lot of our cooking, and we washed our
Yep.
vegetables with the special stuff that would
Biodine or
clean.
whatever
Yeah,
it's called, yeah.
biodine to clean everything, and our fruit we cleaned.
Yeah.
So we were really careful, and for whatever reason, our stomachs were really, really sensitive in
Yeah.
Mexico, and it really made us sad because of that. It's no fun.
Yeah. It's not like that. Like, who knows? If we stayed in one spot for a long period of time, we may have adapted.
Yeah.
But it's enough of an extra thing added with all the financial issues
Yeah.
that it is definitely kind of tips the scales in
Yeah.
relation to us not retiring in Mexico. Well, we hope this video has been of help to you today. And I know it's not exactly like a super chipper video like a lot of our videos are with living and retiring in a place. But we really needed to say exactly why we weren't retiring in Mexico. Well, we love it so very much.
Yeah. And, like I said, I think, just talking to other people and people sending us messages, and, a lot of people are feeling the same way with the strong peso and everything else going on. And lots of people are budget conscious these days.
Maybe for you, it's not that big of an issue.
Yeah.
And you're like, you know what? These aren't my concerns. But maybe for you, it is a concern. And it's something to rethink if you are considering retiring in Mexico.
Yeah, and if you have any questions, or if you have experienced anything or have the same concerns, drop a comment
Yep.
below. We always like to hear your comments.
Yeah, and you know what? Feel free to subscribe, because we have a lot of new content coming
Yeah.
up. We've heard what everyone's been saying to us and how we're really going to kind of redial the focus specifically on living and retiring. So, and we have some big surprises coming up. Some places that are maybe not as well known, some places that are somewhat well known, and then some complete secrets of, especially of Asia, without going into specifics, that maybe might be the place where we're going.
Could
So,
be, could be. You gotta
could be.
watch.
Just stay tuned, and I hope you've enjoyed today's video. Everyone, stay safe and happy travels.
Happy travels.